shows up, they will just click and join us.
Great. If you can just give me 1 minute.
Anyway, welcome everyone. Couple of things. I need to read something to you, just some rules of Zoom meetings. We do this at every Zoom meeting and that is run by the city of East Lansing. So let me do this before we even begin. We ask that all board members indicate their attendance when we do roll call, which will be in just a moment, by saying "I" after their name is called, as well as indicate where they are tuning in from. For example, I assume everybody's calling in from East Lansing, but just in case you're not in East Lansing, just identify where you are at the moment. And with that, I will ask Amy to start us off by doing the roll call.
Great. Arndt. Bigman.
Yes. East Lansing, Michigan.
Perfect. Christensen.
Here. I'm actually in Lansing, Michigan.
Cronin.
Here, also in Lansing, Michigan.
Dwyer. Hittner. Lako. Lilly.
Here, and I'm in Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Rosen.
Here, East Lansing.
Sardar.
Here, East Lansing.
Shantz.
Here, Lansing.
Webster.
Here in Meridian Township.
Thank you very much. Mr. Chair, you have quorum.
Okay. Let me first of all thank everyone for attending. As you know, this is, I don't know if to say fortunately or unfortunately, this will be our last official meeting. So we are doing this, as you know, by Zoom. So please, if we run into any glitches, please be patient. Hopefully everything will work according to what we hope it will. There will be a point at which any member of the public who is not a member of this committee will have a chance to speak, and we will take care of that and identify the rules of that in just a few minutes when we get to that. In the meanwhile, as far as the process is, again, when we have any voting for any measures to agree or disagree on, each member will be called on individually to speak to that item. And again, what we would appreciate is if you would state your name when speaking. Of course, if we're voting, state your, we will do a roll call vote where we will call your name. And you just have to say yes or no, A or nay. But if you choose to speak on anything, it would be helpful if you remember, and I'm a great person who forgets to do this, so don't go by me. But if you remember, please state your name so we know who's speaking at the moment. If there's an item and you are called on to speak about something and you choose not to want to speak about that or have nothing to add, just say pass if you're called on. And as I said, all the votes will be taken by roll call, and you'll have your opportunity to say yay or nay. And that's that. Well, it looks like we have one additional participant. Hello. Hello, Conrad. Okay. So let's go on to the third item on the agenda, which is approval of the minutes from August 31st, 2020. And I just want to mention, I read through this, and I know this is very nitpicky, but I found an unnecessary comma in there under item 7C in the first sentence. So Amy, if you want to take out that comma right after it says, Schussler shared with committee members new, comma, census door hangers. That comma there is unnecessary.
Got it.
Okay, but anybody else, any other comments or corrections, changes, additions to the minutes of August 31st. This is your chance to jump in at this time. Okay, not hearing any. Amy, would you call the roll so we can? Oh, I'm sorry. We need to have a motion. Someone needs to make a motion to accept the meetings of August 31st.
This is Amy Bigman. I'll make that motion.
And I'll
Janet
second
Lilly,
it.
I'll second.
Thank you, Amy.
Okay, so this is a roll call vote for the approval of the agenda. Bigman,
Aye.
Christensen,
Aye.
Cronin,
Aye.
Lilly,
Aye.
Rosen,
Aye.
Sardar,
Aye.
Shantz,
Aye.
Webster,
Aye.
Hittner.
Aye.
The motion passes.
Okay. We need to do the approval of the, I'm sorry, I skipped right over the agenda. Thank you for picking up on that. We need to approve the agenda similarly. I'm sorry, we need to approve the minutes as we just did the agenda. My apologies. Motion to approve the minutes.
So
I'll
moved.
make the motion to approve it.
Okay, who made the motion?
Sardar,
Oh, thank you. And second?
Hittner, second.
Thank you.
all right, and I will do a roll call vote. Bigman,
Aye.
Christensen,
Aye.
Cronin,
Aye.
Lilly,
She had to step away.
oh, sorry, Rosen,
Aye.
Sardar,
Aye.
Shantz,
Aye.
Webster,
Aye.
Hittner.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Okay, the next item is public comments, and I am not aware that there is anybody on at this very moment for public comment, but let
Actually,
me,
Mr. Chair, there is someone showing.
well, good. Let me read the guidelines here so we're all clear about this. Each caller in the queue requesting the opportunity to speak will have 2 minutes to address the board. Callers will be identified by the last 3 digits of their phone number, and that, of course, is to maintain privacy or confidentiality. And anybody who is wishing, any member of the public who's wishing to speak will be kept on mute and until it is their turn, and then they will be unmuted. At the end of the 2 minutes comment, the secretary will share that the 2 minutes have passed and they will be placed back on mute. If you are on the queue or in the queue waiting to speak, and when it's your turn, you change your mind, just say pass. This is not a requirement, but if you choose to speak, it would be helpful if you would state your name and your affiliation, your business affiliation or your address before addressing the committee. So with that, Amy, I think you will be able to facilitate public comment.
Sure. Mr. Chair, do you want to limit the public comment to 2 minutes, or would you like to just have it be however long you would have someone?
I would be more than happy to allow longer
Okay.
if nobody on the committee objects, and if there isn't since I don't think there's a whole lot of people have called in at this point, why don't we just keep it open-ended and hope that anyone who speaks tries to be succinct and keep it to a few minutes.
Okay.
And we'll try to accommodate everyone's needs.
Okay, so caller, the last 3 digits are 057. Again, the last 3 digits for your phone number is 057, and you will now be permitted to address the committee. And caller, you might be muted. I believe if you do *8, that will help unmute you.
Hi, it's Quinn Alexander with the City of East Lansing. I'm just joining by phone call. My internet's a little wonky right now.
Perfect. Great, thanks, Quinn.
Yep.
Okay. Is there anybody else, Amy?
Nope, that was the only person in the queue.
Okay, well, all right, most of this has been formalities, so why don't we get into the heart of this wrap-up meeting? And the next item on the agenda is our financial report. So, Amy, I'm going to turn it over to you. There is quite an extensive and very transparent, I'm happy to say, list of our expenditures, which is what we always want. So, why don't I just turn it over to you, and you can explain to us all the money that you
Sure.
or we have spent and what for.
Sure. So I just wanted to provide you all with a detailed financial report of what was expended. As a quick reminder, so this committee has actually been meeting for about 17 months now. Our financials, though, came in July 1. So that is when City Council said to us, okay, beginning July 1, you guys will have up to $10,000 to expend on activities. So during that time, we did things like purchase banners and signage and some informational brochure racks, materials that you might recall. And so all told, for operating expenses, not staff salary, but well, frankly, for both. But out of general fund operating, you spent $4,454.40 of city monies. And then separate from that, it's not recorded here, but there were funds spent out of general fund towards like my salary, and we all recall Regine had our census intern. So that was really from July 1 through March 30th of 2020. Yes. So then fast forward in time with me to when COVID hit, and we had applied for a grant. The City of East Lansing applied for a grant through the Michigan Municipal League. And long story short, we were very graciously awarded the grant, which was great. So all of the remaining encumbrances were paid for out of that grant. So from April to September 30th, because those were from the Michigan Municipal League. They operate on an October 1 through September 30th time period. So we had until September 30th to expend our funds, which were great. So I provided you with the expenditure report. I know that was included in your packet. That kind of showed you everything that was paid for out of the census account, whether it was pins, banners, tablecloth information from booths, things of that nature. And obviously social media ads. And then I provided you with, the Michigan Municipal League had me report every month on expenditures, but then they wanted one final sort of overarching report on finances. And they just wanted it to be one page on letterhead. So this is what I submitted to them just to give you an idea of how we expended all of their funds. So all told, for the Michigan Municipal League grant, which was $16,708.15, plus City of East Lansing money, plus additional staff time. I think it's very safe to say that all told, you probably operated on about $25,000 in census initiatives. So I think that that's probably something for everybody to really be proud of. I think that we certainly got a lot done in our time period. So I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any, but I did want to provide that final financial report and information to you.
Are there any questions or comments for Amy? Well, thanks, Amy. That's, as I said, this is a terrific report. At least we have a good history of what was done this time
Absolutely.
around. And maybe in 10 years, this will be of help to us.
That's right. Absolutely. I referenced our 2010 census files, so I am confident that they will reference the 2020 census files.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like this
Great.
was not, I assure you. So.
Okay. If there are no comments, I want to keep moving along and talk about our ongoing, the last items of business, the main one being the first one, which is having Amy just review what we have accomplished during this year. And she has a nice summary of that.
Yeah, so I wanted to provide a snapshot. I know when I serve on boards and committees, it's always nice for me to see some overarching metrics. So, you know, between July 1 through September 30th, we did do significant outreach on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We did partner with a public relations firm through the MML grant, but you actually had over 990,895 impressions, which is views, if you're familiar with that. And then we had 8,527 clicks directly to the census.gov webpage that we were able to track through our social media metrics. So what that means is not only do people look at our ad, but they then directly went to the census webpage. Our hope, certainly, is that then they filled out the census form. So we're hoping that that was all positive feedback. In terms of distribution of those census flyers, that census brochure that you guys helped create and worked on the verbiage really hard for, that maroon one, we actually distributed over 10,000 of those in the community. We handed out every single flyer, guys, even with COVID. So that's pretty great in terms of outreach. We, at the very last meeting, we did approve door hangers to East Lansing. And so we distributed over 1,500 of those in different households between volunteers and staff members. You know, we would try to just leave them on the door hangers. I'm sure a lot of people are getting door hangers right now with you know, the election and stuff, but we did drop those off. You had also purchased through the MML grant, like hand sanitizers and stress balls. So I don't know if you've heard, but we've had like a mask ambassador program in downtown East Lansing. And so people are able to stop by into that tent between Wednesdays and Saturdays and get informational materials. And a lot of that swag was distributed them and appreciated. So 400 pieces of swag were distributed through that. And then I think what's really telling is that all told, between our staff time and all of your individual hours that you donated to this committee, we put over 1,210 hours into specific census work. So I think that that's a lot of dedicated time. And I personally, as your staff liaison, cannot thank each of you enough for your time and your generosity of talent. So I'm happy to answer questions, but I just wanted to give you a snapshot of all the work that went into things.
Yeah.
So.
I would like to add to that, although I'm not sure if this is the exact correct place to do it. But all the help we got from Janet Lilly and Sue Webster at the university, at Michigan State University, in pushing to get the Census Bureau to live up to their obligations, which was to use administrative data to count students living on campus in dormitories, et cetera. And then even more important, well, as important, getting a count of students living off campus to the extent that they were recognized on a mailing list maintained by the university. Again, and that second list, as well as the first list, being promised by the Bureau to be incorporated in the final numerical results of how many people live in the city of East Lansing. And that was really a major accomplishment of the university. And as I said, I'm not sure if this goes on this sheet, but I just wanted to make sure it was recognized so that we all remember it. It's in the notes, it's on the recording and so on. And Janet and Sue, thank you very much. I think everybody agrees that that was a critically important activity, and we really appreciate your efforts along those lines.
Thanks, Mary. We were very happy to do it and glad that we could do that with the university and our materials and information.
Have you gotten any sense since then, since those data were submitted, that the Census Bureau is actually using them? I mean, maybe it's too soon, but have you gotten any feedback from the Census Bureau?
We haven't gotten any negative feedback or any problematic feedback, so I'm going to take that as a positive sign.
Okay, let's hope so. Great. Okay. Well, that's great. Anyway, thanks. It's really appreciated. Amy, do you want me to jump in and talk about the next page or two? You don't mind?
I think that's great, Larry.
Okay. As you know, I'm a sucker for data tables and tabulations and graphs and things like that. So just as a wrap up, I collected what information was available really within the last 10 days or so. And if you look at, there are three charts here, and I just want to tell you what they represent more informally. The first one says final 2020 census housing enumeration, and each of these should add up to very close to 99.9%. They're not all exactly that, but they're close. And that represents, as it says, the census enumeration of housing units, all the units that they've identified in the map work and the address work that they have done in the 2 to 3 years prior to actually launching the 2020 census. I want to make something clear, though. The Census Bureau has been putting out press releases saying they've reached 99% of the households in the country, or perhaps the housing units in the country. Keep in mind, though, what that doesn't mean is that they've actually spoken with 99% of the population of the United States. That will certainly, those figures will certainly include households that are not occupied or were not reachable during that period of time, yet they were approached by a census taker. So this looks great, and the public, the press releases look great, but by reaching 99.9 or 99.8% of the households in the country does not mean that they actually have been able to enumerate everyone. There are some statistically sound and techniques for estimating the number of people living in a household and the composition of that household when the data are missing, when the household is known to be occupied and they have not been able to get people there to respond. It's not perfect, so you will know that at the end of the day, there are some estimates incorporated into the census. But by and large, they've spoken to most, they've actually spoken to households that represent most of the population, with some exceptions in some locations. So we shall see what we find as time goes on. Just to put this in perspective, the second chart shows the self-response rates in mid-Michigan counties and compares it to the US. And of course, I failed to put on here the Michigan one, but it's Michigan was, I think, was around 71%, if I remember correctly, or somewhere in that range. These are the people, these represent the proportions that actually responded to the census, either online, using the paper form, or by phone. And there were very, very few people who did it by phone, actually. But nonetheless, this is what we had in the mid-Michigan area. Ingham County did not do quite as well as the suburban counties in Eaton County and Clinton County. In all cases, if my memory serves me correctly, we slightly exceeded the statewide rate, and we certainly exceeded the national rate. So we did, the time we spent and the effort put into this had some payoff. It did help us to reach a lot more people than we might have had we not made an effort to let people know about the census. And then the final one is the self-response rates for our neighbors, the people in Lansing and Ingham County as a whole. And we come out at only 62.9% compared to higher figures for Lansing and Ingham County as a whole, including East Lansing. But not to worry, that relatively lower figure there only represents the fact that there were a large number of students who were not counted, or who didn't respond, I should say, directly to the census through the mechanism Census Bureau set up. So we missed some students that way, but as we were talking about 2 minutes ago, hopefully most, if not all, of those students were captured through the information provided by the university to the Census Bureau. So, we'll keep our fingers crossed and hope that all of this worked out to our benefit so that most, if not all of the people in East Lansing were counted, including students who were not physically present at the time the census was being conducted. So these are the final data in those three categories. So that's what I have. Any questions about that? These data, in case you're wondering, this is all publicly available. It's online. I was receiving receive this information on a daily basis, not all of these, but lots of stuff. I'm on the Census Bureau's public relations mailing list, and they send out a ton of information, including for all kinds of surveys and other data collection activities besides the decennial census. But this information is out there, and if you're ever interested in looking at any of this stuff, please let me know, because I can direct you to where some of these things are, and actually to a lot of these things, and things that you may be interested in that may relate to the census, may not relate to the census. There's a lot of survey work that is associated with the census, but is not the census itself. So if you're ever interested in those monthly surveys or annual surveys, please let me know. And I should point out probably the biggest one is the monthly survey that the American Community Survey that the Census Bureau conducts includes, or is used for, among other things, the monthly reporting, or at least part of the monthly reporting on the unemployment rates. So that's very, very important stuff. And it's all public information. So if you're ever interested, just send me a text or an email or whatever, and I can point you in that direction. The last thing that I wanted to send to you, or I should say did send to you, well, a couple of things, just to make sure you understand what the timeline is. I've given you the official timelines for the census. These are required by law. And as just to repeat something which you probably know, but the census is actually delineated in Article 1, Section 2 of the Constitution, where it says that every 10 years, every resident of the country is to be counted. And I mention that because the courts have finally ruled on several lawsuits that were trying to incorporate the idea that people who were not legal residents of the United States should not be counted, or should not be accounted for in these final results, or at least, well, yeah, in all of these final results. The courts have said, no, the Constitution is very clear that it is all people residing in the United States. It says nothing about legal or illegal status, nothing about any other kind of status, obviously, and of course some of the amendments, the 14th and I believe 14th Amendment addresses the counting of all people, not just white people. So let me just mention this to you. Traditionally, on the 31st of December, the Census Bureau delivers the official count of the states to the president, and that is used to determine how many representatives each state will have in Congress for the following 10 years. And there is a complex, it's not statistically complex, but it's arithmetically complex. I've seen it, I looked at it over the years, and I can't remember exactly, but since there are not exactly the same number of people in each state per congressional representative, there are mechanisms to allocate the number of representatives each time around. Michigan, unfortunately, because it hasn't been growing over the last 3 decades, has had declined at one point, has lost representation in Congress, whereas our neighbors to the south and the west, as they have been growing, have increased their representation in the Congress. The number of representatives in Congress being set at 538. So it's a matter of apportioning them out. And these are the figures which are supposed to go to the president by December 31st. And then On April 1st in the following year, which would be 2020, that is the deadline for releasing the detailed information that not only has the population of the states, but also has the population for the voting age population, as well as race and Hispanic origin, and several things like that, all the way down to the block level, so that within the states, the congressional districts and the state legislative districts, both House and Senate in the states, can be identified, and the states can redistrict. And so those are the official deadlines. There is no word right now whether these deadlines will be made. The Census Bureau's only comment on this is that they will try to achieve these deadlines. So it's very likely that we may not see these final figures by the end of the year or in April, and it may drag on a while. So, but that's where we are. And so hopefully everything that's been done so far, and if everything works out, the figures will be delivered on time. If not, it won't be the end of the world. Things will still get done. And then finally, the last page, I believe it's the last page, is a statement. Well, I have it here someplace, but yeah, there it is. I copied and pasted. This is a statement from a press release from the director of the Census Bureau, and it's not all of it, but it's the major part of it. And it's just a brief thank you to everybody who helped participate in the census, including the local complete count committees across the nation. And I took the liberty of bolding a statement in the last paragraph at the bottom of the page, where the director of the Census Bureau said that on behalf of thousands of employees of the U.S. Census Bureau, thank you and congratulations on the tremendous impact you made in shaping your community's future by promoting the 2020 census. And that was very much addressed to people like ourselves who went out of their way and took their own personal time to participate in these activities. So that's a little bit of a thank you, kind of not exactly personal, not as if he called each one of us, but it's nice to see that we are recognizing here. So anyway, that takes care of that item, which is all the continued business. And before we move on, and there is one other thing before we adjourn, but are there anybody have any questions or comments or anything else they want to say about each or any of these items?
A question on the previous item that you were discussing, the low self-response rate. Can we attribute that to the fact that bulk of the student data was fed from MSU automatically in the overall scheme? Is that why that appears skewed compared to the others?
I'm going to let Janet or Sue answer that question. I mean, I have an answer, but I think they're better. They probably have a better answer than I do. So Sue, or Janet, either one of you have an answer?
Well, the information that we have as far as students who live on campus is incredibly accurate. It's the off-campus population and those addresses, it's whatever students enter into our registrar's office system. So that, because they don't live with us, so they're not physically on campus and we don't count them, we ask them to update their address in our registrar's office system, and many do, but it's not always the most accurate. It just depends on what they put in.
And if I can, Larry, Todd, my understanding from the Census Bureau is that self-response is if you replied via mail, through the online census form or on the phone. And so MSU is considered an administrative upload. And so that self-response was just one of those three niches. And so I think you recall, like for the last couple of meetings, I've been saying, I know our self-response rate looks a little low, but I feel like that's misleading because through the MSU administrative count process, you know, we know that there were 15,100 students counted on campus. We know that. We know that there were 17,559 counted in the off campus. And we estimate, and we feel like it's a fairly good estimate, that about 11,000 are going to be East Lansing. So I don't want to oversell us, but I really feel like we're going to be up in the 90s, you know, once all of that is factored in terms of our response rate.
Okay.
You know.
Yeah,
That count is really not a bad thing. That's what I was getting to.
Right. Yes. Yeah. I mean,
exactly.
yes.
Yeah.
When I checked in with our regional office, I said, where are we at? And our regional office said, of all the households in East Lansing, they at that point had enumerated 99.9%. So the hope is, right, through the admin process, self-response, and then when they actually had to go door knocking, that they got close to everybody. So. Yeah,
and just to put a fine point on this, I think the key is that in the past, and Amy, you can tell me if I'm correct about this or not, but it's my understanding that in the past, some students did actually respond. Some students living on campus may have responded to the census, but that self-enumeration rate doesn't refer to them at all. And there may have been some this time around too, but it's just the folks who were contacted originally with that postcard that associated with an address off campus that that 62%, 62+% refers to. So 62% of people representing all households in the area responded. And then as you saw, as has been explained, we hopefully picked up a whole bunch of other students who lived in town but did not respond to the census directly, and students on campus who were not expected to respond directly. So yeah, keep your fingers crossed that we got most of the people, hopefully. Any other questions or comments or anything?
So Larry or Amy, this is Conrad. So will it be in December or not until April, whether we know what our number or our final number turned out to be, whether we hit the 50,000 mark or not?
I think our hope is,
go ahead.
I think that's our hope, is that it's going to be April. You know, given COVID, the Census Bureau isn't committing to that hard deadline, but generally speaking, historically, we have gotten initial numbers locally in April.
Okay. So
you can all expect an email from me about whatever the number is. Don't think that you're done with me, guys.
Yeah.
I'm in the loop.
No.
Yeah. That's the hope, that I will get initial numbers. I might not get all the demographic breakdown, you know, that Larry responds to, but I'll get a number. And the city actually has an opportunity to challenge the number. For example, if we think that's very low, and we have done that historically. So stay tuned for all of that. But hopefully we get 50,001 people, and that will be considered a success. So.
Absolutely. Anything else? Any other comments or questions? Well, I have gotten, I consulted with Amy before we got started, and I did want to add one little thing before we adjourn, and that is, I wanted to throw it open to anybody and any comments that anyone wants to make about this whole experience, their feelings about it, their satisfaction or not. I hope it wasn't, hope it's not a not, but I just wanted to provide a few minutes for any of us, all of us, to say something about this experience and, you know, get in your last licks and say a couple of things about this whole process. And, you know, I will start off myself just by saying it's been a privilege to work with all of you. And I've really enjoyed this, but, you know, I'm kind of a nerd about these things. So I don't know how much everybody else enjoyed it, but I think you did. This has been a great experience for me. And I don't want to dominate anything. So I'm going to shut up and just open it to anybody else who has any comments or observations or anything at all.
I'll go. This is Amy, the other Amy. I have to say that, since I've been an adult, I filled out the census, but I didn't really realize how much went into all of it, and really understanding what the results are, why the census is so important. Like I had a general idea, but really understood this and shared this with a lot of people. So it's a really great learning experience. And I'm only sorry that I couldn't do more things in person, but it's been a privilege to be on this committee, and a special thanks to Amy and to Larry for, really just keeping us moving, especially during COVID. It had to have been a huge challenge, and you guys did a really great job.
Thanks.
It's very kind. Thank you.
Well, thanks, Rabbi Bigman. I just want to say that most of the thanks go to Amy and Regine Head, who I'm sorry is not with us today. But by the way, what is Regine doing these days? Do you know, Amy?
Yeah, I know Tassin sent out an email. So she is working for a nonprofit. She's actually still focusing a ton of her efforts, or was, on Census 2020 initiatives.
Oh,
And I do know that she was working on a campaign for someone from trying to represent Detroit. So she was working in local politics as well. So she has relocated back home to Detroit, but Regine is always on fire. So she's working hard, and community activism, that's really where her passion is. So.
Yeah, well, the two of you were terrific. I mean, you get most of the credit, really. I mean, I helped run the meetings, but the two of you really kept things really moving along. So thank you. Thank you very much.
This was a team effort. You can only be as good as your committee allows you to be. So I really want to thank everyone. I know what it's like to sit in meetings, and then I know what it's like to sit in Zoom meetings, believe me. So I really appreciate everybody's time and talents. I always appreciate a board that has, that comes from comes at things with different perspectives and different backgrounds. And I really felt like this committee had that. So it was really a privilege. So thank you to everyone.
Anybody else want to speak? Feel free. Amy, let me ask you a question. Is there, you think we might, once we find out how well we did back come April, that we might be able to get together, or sometime maybe if we don't have to do it by Zoom, or even if we do, if we could, get together again sometime in the future just to celebrate hopefully our success?
Yeah, I think it's perfect. I think that maybe what we could do is set up more of like an informal Zoom meeting or something, and everyone could kind of gather. This would be the last formal meeting, from a Open Meetings Act perspective and things of that nature. But I'm always happy, hopefully in the spring, maybe we'll feel more comfortable going out and about, and we could, all get together as a group. But absolutely, I'm always in for a group meeting. So.
Well, with that, I guess I should ask for someone to make a motion to adjourn the meeting. I'm hoping that there will be one last communication sent out to everyone as we have time in the next few weeks, just to wrap some of this up. But for the moment, unless there's anything else to discuss or chat about or what have you, I will entertain a motion to adjourn this last formal meeting of the East Lansing 2020 Census Complete Count Committee.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Wonderful. Okay. Do you want
All right,
to?
I will do a roll call vote then. Don't forget about your roll call vote, guys. You didn't get rid of me that quickly. Rosen.
Yes, unfortunately.
Sardar.
Yes.
Bigman.
Yes.
Hittner.
Yes.
Webster.
Yes.
Cronin.
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Shantz.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Take care, everyone. Stay
Thanks,
safe and
folks.
healthy.
Yes, same to everyone. Thanks, Amy. Thanks for running the meeting, for running all this technology and stuff.
No problem.
I'll be in touch.
Everyone, and have a wonderful holiday season. And I sincerely do hope to see all of you out and about in the community. So thank you, everyone.
Likewise, thank you.
Amy,
Thank you.
bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.